Hey, John, welcome back for another teardown. I think we're going to knock out a couple today, but we're going to start with a company called Harkla. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I don't really know anything about them, but I did take a sneak peek just to get some context for what they offer. And I know that they offer a product line that appears to help children with autism or other mental disabilities sleep better, play better, focus when they're supposed to be at school or focusing on a task. So excited to dive in, but thanks for joining us again today. I'll get the site fired up. Anything you want to say as a welcoming note for the folks listening?
No, that's great. We've actually worked with a few other, I'll say, competitors to them in the past, and it's always an enjoyable experience because this audience over anything else really needs a highly usable experience because the parents are dealing with a lot, right? And so they need to get in, get the information and the products they need and get out quickly and without frustration. So our team really took pride in that last time. So that's really cool to hear that we're doing this one today. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, same here. Let's see. I got the homepage fired up, and I will say the pop up that you're seeing now. I don't know if you caught that, but it was delayed
Mhm.
about, I don't know, 10 seconds. It was longer than I typically see. And at first glance, it looks pretty simplistic in design, but it's not leading with a discount, which I know you'll be a fan of. So, any other thoughts about this pop up that just showed up in front of us here in the first few seconds?
I love this because in our experience, the number one things that parents of children with disorders and autism especially really want is education, right? They want to know what products are really going to be best for them. So that's great to see. Is it best to have that pop up here right as you get into the site or even 10 seconds in? I don't know. I probably would wait until they engage with the site a little more to make sure that they know it's a reputable source. But I actually think this is great. You're right. It's not a discount. It's not it's an offer, and I think that works really really well.
Yeah, agreed. And the only thing I'll say here is I'd like to see it triggered by scroll depth or maybe exit intent. Like you
Mhm.
mentioned, it doesn't necessarily need to pop up within the first 10 seconds. I don't love that it's with a purchase because it does kind of feel like, I don't know, bribing's not the right word, but it does kind of feel like, okay, you have to buy from us first and then we'll help you out. And these parents, they've got a lot going on as it is. And the other thing I notice here is listing out the ebooks that are included at the bottom in a bulleted list. I don't think that's quite as powerful by itself as it would be to replace the imagery here with maybe some mock-ups of the ebook covers. Just have some covers designed and show four ebooks or four physical books laid out in kind of an array so I can see visually which ones are going to be included. And I think it's intuitive that if you say ebooks, it's like, okay, I know you're showing me a picture of a physical book, but I'm going to get the digital version of that. I think that'd be a lot more compelling than a bulleted list or the icon that they have here right now.
I think that's fair for sure. I kind of like having the titles of the books there only because you're really showing what you're going to get,
Mhm.
right? Instead of just saying ebooks, which can be really low value at times, right? Also, you're really resonating with the core audience of the parents here. For instance, do the child, does your child have child challenges with sleep? Do you really want to know what the symptoms are, which I think is a big thing in this community? And then, also what is the best items that you can get? And it says 101 of the best, right? So I think it's interesting and intriguing. I'd want to maybe test having those in there and having them not and seeing what the situation is. I'm also a little confused now that you brought that up about this is with a purchase, but it just says enter your email to get a copy of these. So, and then the CTA says send me my ebooks. Well, it's not really like that if I have to do a purchase. Also, how do they make sure that you're doing a purchase after you enter your email? So, I think they should just say with your purchase today, get rid of that. And I think they'd probably have an even higher conversion rate on this.
Yeah, and it's worth stating that I don't have this text highlighted, and it's a little odd for it to be have the blue
Mm.
background, and so that like that design element is a questionable choice to me. I think you should just make it blue text on the gray background, like a headline or something like that. I just noticed that's
I
not
did
something I
think
have
you had it
highlighted. Yeah.
highlighted. So, yeah, good thing you pointed
Okay.
that out.
Okay, let's close that out. I'm going to refresh the page just because I resized my browser window here a little bit and I don't want to get any awkward responsive issues. But it looks like we're looking at the hero section here. And the first thing that jumps out at me is the kind of seasonal logo here because it is the holidays and everybody's doing some gift shopping. So I think that's just a clever, nice personal touch.
Mhm.
A lot of brands aren't going to that length. And then in terms of the hero section, I think the product photography is fairly apparent. I can't, the blanket makes sense to me. The item on the right side is less intuitive. It looks kind of like, I don't know, I've seen there's a fitness program that women are doing now that's like ribbon dancing basically, like they hang from the ceiling. It's like Cirque du Soleil kind of. And that was the first thing I thought of. I know that's not what it is because there's obviously a
Yeah.
child there, but it does feel like, I don't know, maybe there's a different use case that could be depicted there to make it a little bit more intuitive for the average consumer.
Yeah, and we're not really the target market while we both have children. Both of, to the best of my knowledge, our children don't have autism. So I think that
Right.
that's probably something that a parent may recognize, perhaps. But at the same time, I do love the headline. They're really saying this is what we do. And it's very, very clear that I'm in the right place for my pain or need here. And they're going to be able to help me with that. I'm a little concerned about the navigation. We've talked about these in these teardowns lately about people just having shop is the main navigation. I feel like it's the plague of e-commerce right now, where people just have shop with this massive drop down instead of just listing the main categories out right up front, which I think really can help people just clearly and quickly understand what products you're selling. And that's really what a navigation should do. It should be wayfinding, right? It should tell you which direction to go next. And you really don't need blog in that main header. And about us, you probably don't need up there either. So you could have some room for some product categories. I'm also really split on having the nav in the middle, or excuse me, having the nav split by a brand logo in the middle versus having that off to the left. Top left corner, I still think maybe I'm just a traditionalist, but all of our tests have shown that performs way better than splitting the nav in this manner and putting the logo in the middle of the page, mainly because right now, if I look at the main navigation, the first thing I see when I launch this site is shop. That tells me nothing about A, am I in the right place? And B, what I'm even getting at this, right? Shop, blog, and about us could be on that could be any e-commerce site on the internet, right? So, really putting your logo in the top left corner and then having the nav off to the right of that is going to perform better.
Yeah. And I see the free shipping bar up here, but it's just kind of an interesting ribbon tucked off into the top right corner. I'm used to seeing that kind of a full width presentation. So I like the messaging. I like the location. I wonder if it's really doing much. Kind of the font's fairly small because it's constricted into that small space up there in the top right corner. So that jumped out at me. The other thing that I'm curious about to get your input on, John, is we usually say, hey, the blog doesn't belong in the main navigation for a product like this where I feel like parents want some education, some guidance, some instruction around what's going on with their children, especially if they have a new child that was newly diagnosed or something like that. It almost feels like that might be more valuable and more top of mind to this particular customer segment. So I'm curious if you might test a different recommendation there. I mean, either way, I certainly wouldn't call it blog. I'd call it something like, I don't know, articles or advice or guidance or something or research, something that it shows like, hey, we're going to talk about kind of the illness side of things or the health concerns or whatever about that versus just product talk. So yeah, curious about your thoughts there. Would you recommend testing that for a brand like this?
I would. I would actually recommend taking it out of the nav and just having it be towards the bottom of this page, and then having those resources. If there's a product that is featured in a blog article, put that blog article, highlight that blog article on that product detail page.
Mhm.
Then it becomes a resource and a supporting tool to making a informed decision about buying a product instead of having a just a blog that's now pushing somebody back up the funnel as opposed to them actually going deeper and buying a product. So
Yeah. Let's
supporting
take a quick look
information,
at.
it's going to be better there.
Sure, sorry. I didn't mean to jump in there. Let's take a look at the shop drop down navigation real quick. And yeah, I like that it's oriented around goals. I mean, sometimes you
Mhm.
see most of the time, I would say you probably see categories here. So it might be like blankets and vests and whatever this ribbon thing is. I'll figure it out on the right hand side here as we go down the page. But I like that this is around, oriented around goals. And goals are typically, in this case, I would assume to solve some kind of problem. My kid's not sleeping. My kid's, not playing, not can't relax when it's playtime or something like that. And my kid can't focus when it's time to sit down and do some schoolwork or read a book or whatever. So I like that because as a parent, I'm probably coming in and saying, I have this problem. Which one of these products solves that for me? This seems to be oriented around me and not around the brand.
Yeah, it's interesting. If I'm recalling correctly, it's been a handful of years since we worked with their competitor or one of their competitors. But I will say that I believe we ended up testing a variant like this, and this shopping by goal like this was the winner by far because there's so many products. And really, when parents come to these sites, they've either been told by a doctor or therapist or counselor to go get these types of products, and they're looking for a specific type of product, but they know it's under sleep, play, or focus. And I think we actually called it sleep, play, or learning were the three. And so it's great to see that they're following in that, and they've either figured that out or saw what our work had been before.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect it to move the needle significantly in terms of conversions, but I wonder if just some simple micro copy here around instead of shop sleep, like sleep better or play
Mhm.
better or focus more, something like that, like just a little bit more orientation around the benefit even and less around the transaction. I think maybe from a customer experience it's a little softer, but yeah, that could be a nice little test to run as well.
Yeah,
All right.
especially since it's under the shop drop down, right? You don't need that twice. But I would just say those should be the top three main nav items. Instead of shop, log, and about, put shop sleep, shop play, shop focus.
Yeah. Okay, agree. Let's see what's right under the hero section here. So, product imagery jumps out at me. Like, I know what the thing is. Like, even with no other information, I know you're probably selling me the bright purple blanket with these two cute kids cuddling in bed here.
Yep.
So, great job on that. And I like how the headline is oriented around kind of all those three elements that we just talked about: sleeping better, playing better, and it's not really addressing the focus piece here, but that could be, just sensory could just be another way to say that, like
Mhm.
blocking out some of the overwhelm and focusing on what's in front of you. And I also like that they talk specifically to their audience here. So we're talking to
Mhm.
parents, educators. I don't know what the dinosaurs. That's just a little humor there, but I like that they're saying that they already know who you are and why you're here. And I think that displaying that understanding just establishes authority with the brand. Like, we know who you are and why you're coming here, so we're the best people to help you with your issue.
Yeah, yeah, I really like this, and I actually really love that they threw dinosaur in there. It's kind of like, are you paying attention? Are you reading this? And I also think at the same time, it just adds some humor into a subject that's can be tough in parents' lives, right?
Yeah.
So you're injecting a little bit of levity into this in a really tasteful way.
Yeah, and I definitely thought this was a link. So I don't know if I know
Yeah.
it's the brand blue, but maybe an underline or which could also be deceiving. But I don't know. So I feel like maybe I'm not the only one that tried to click on that and just wanted to know where it was taking me. And also, this kind of seems like a lot of text at this
Mhm.
size. And I wonder if you could just do free shipping, lifetime guarantees, and bend over backward customer service as bullets or icons to break this up. So you'd have a paragraph about that long, and then you'd have three bullets about how you provide an outstanding experience, and then two sentences at the end to wrap it up. Feels like a better way to break it out to me.
Agreed, 100%.
All right, so let's check out the next section. We kind of see these pretty much everywhere. This is the real reassurance and kind of the mission and values and what makes the product and the purchasing experience great for them. So I don't know. I mean, it's fun. The ninja's fun. I don't understand why that means we're here for you. Like the happiness ninjas. I don't know. That's some startup-y language, but yeah, I guess you're keeping it fun for parents and kids. But it's like they have to do this delicate dance between like we are a clinical authority that's building products that are actually proven to help your child be more effective in whatever they're trying to do. And also, like, let's keep it fun because at the end of the day, we're selling to parents and kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think this is well done. I'm never one for the term ninja. I mean, it
Mm.
literally means hired assassin. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
are you, you have hired assassins helping you. That's probably not going to be calm and focused and fun. But at the same time, I get what they're trying to do here, and I don't hate it by any means. So yeah, great lockup here in general.
Yeah. I wonder, maybe one test I would suggest here is, and we had this recommendation on a previous teardown, but what about some more realistic images here? Like show a picture of the team here and then show a collection of your products here.
Mhm.
Something that's more based in real life. I just wonder how that would perform against more abstract representation like these icons.
Yeah, if you were going to do that, I would certainly want to maybe do a 2/2 layout instead of all four. And the reason being that having those images is going to get busy. Right now, it feels pretty somewhat clean, right? You can glance at it and get it. If you start doing stuff that's got a lot of color pops in that way, which can bring more faces onto the site, make it a little, more personal perhaps. But at the same time, you really want to make sure that you don't make it too busy.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so let's see. So this is bringing back kind of that main navigation element about the three goals and the three use cases. So here you're seeing some of that product photography I was just alluding to, and I like a few things about this. I like the cohesiveness of them all being kind of blue. So I'm always looking for the blue item in each image, and then I like just kind of the different context that it's in. So like this one is very relaxing, like he's clearly sleeping and the colors are kind of softer. Whereas in the middle, when you're talking about play, it's a brighter blue and it's got these splotches of color on the carpet or the rug or whatever she's laying on in the background there. So yeah, I think this product photography is both beautiful and intuitive. And I think it's super savvy to just kind of have shoppable buttons right underneath all this and not really fall into the trap of having a bunch of copy to support this. Like I think it's intuitive enough. Like I know which one I want. Let me go explore.
Yeah, agreed. I would not change a thing here.
Awesome. That's rare. So congratulations to the Harkla team. John doesn't have anything to change in that section. Moving on. Okay, so this is a carryover from up above. They talked about the lifetime guarantee. They even use the same icon right here. So my first thought was maybe this is a little bit duplicative, or maybe you could reduce this to just three elements and really hammer home that you've got a lifetime guarantee. And if at any point you're not satisfied or the product wears down or whatever, we'll replace it or refund your money. If it's this important, maybe it should just stand on its own, and the other section should only have the three.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many people actually get this far down on the page to begin with. But if we did a scroll map, about 95 to 98% of the traffic is stopping at the that 3 up lockup because they're diving into whatever they want.
Mhm.
So I think they did the right thing by communicating all four of those messages above this with the icons, but then reasserting if people continue to scroll, likely what's happening is they're not convinced about the brand yet, about they're not convinced about Harkla yet, right? Not necessarily the products, right? They're just saying, who is this company? I'm still diving into this on the homepage. So at that point, offering a reassurance like lifetime guarantee could be good. Again, it's a lot of text. Wonder because as you're scrolling here, this fills up the entire screen. I'm wondering if there is 5% of people who are getting this far, do they just stop here? I
Yeah.
wonder. I don't know. I guess they're missing a call to action is the one thing I would definitely add here besides cleaning up some of the copy, making it shorter.
Yeah. And one thing that I was just thinking of is so you had a great point here is most people probably drop off at this section with the three up and all the use cases. So the implied task there to me is like anything you want the prospective customer to know, you need to get up above this, right?
Mhm.
Because this is where they're going to make their decision to shop more or abandon the site or abandon their cart. The one thing I haven't seen yet is any kind of clinical injection like this was made by doctors or it's approved by doctors, the whole dentist commercial type of thing, where it's like 4 out of 5 doctors recommend this toothpaste and it's never anything else, right? So something here that would be more on the clinical side and building credibility around that, I think would probably want to go up above the fold or maybe in replacement of this because test it. What's more important, the lifetime guarantee or the fact that it's backed by clinical research and healthcare professionals? I don't know. And I have no idea what's going to come next. So maybe that's what's going to happen here, but we'll find out. That's the one thing that came to mind here is like maybe if that doesn't already exist or if it's down here lower on the page, maybe that has to go up before kind of those shop links or right around there.
Yeah, I think here, on the left, you can see, first of all, she's a doctor, Dr.
Mhm.
Carr, right? So I think having even a doctor's recommendation or testimonial up above would give you that implied, seal of approval from medical, if you will.
Mhm.
But I think it's a fine line with products like this. They're really not solving a medical need, if that makes sense, right? It's not you don't want to get into like where you're having to put that statements aren't evaluated by FDA or medical professionals or whatever. I think that they're doing it could I would definitely want to test it as you say, right? Have
Mhm.
some type of reassurance from the medical community, but I think having you could do that via testimonial. So it might be make sense to move this testimonial up a little bit and then highlight more that it's a doctor giving you this testimonial. And then, I would say as well shorten the text in these. Very few people are going to read these entire paragraphs. And what's the one or two sentences that you really want people to know? I would say here that as the author of the weighted blanket guidebook, I can truly say I recommend their blanket. Just leave that because you're saying she's a doctor, she's an author. You trust her twice already, and that's great social proof. And she recommends the blanket. So I would just put that up above.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I like that they have her profile picture here. I know that's not
Mhm.
always available, but if you have it, use it. And there's a lot of credibility on this left-hand testimonial. And I think this is a nice compare and contrast situation here where it's like the one on the right just isn't falling as well or hitting as hard for me because it's just Kristen. I don't know who Kristen is. The location's irrelevant to me. There's no profile picture. Like if you had two of the one on the left, I bet it performs a lot better than having two of the one on the right or the mixed representation that you're seeing here. But I do like that they don't overwhelm you with a bunch. They just put
Yeah.
two. And the only thing I would say here is put your two very best ones. If you have another Dr. Kara out there somewhere, put that one up here and replace the one with Kristen. No offense to Kristen. I'm sure she's great. But I just think from a potential customer's perspective, having two doctors here or two therapists or two professionals that have good things to say and have credentials behind their name and a profile picture and all that kind of stuff would be a lot more powerful.
Agreed.
Awesome. Let's check it out. So, okay, so now they get into supplements, which I wasn't expecting to see. This is the first kind of example I've seen around anything that's not kind of a textile, I guess is how I would
Yeah.
describe their products. So this is interesting. This is almost like a whole new category, right? This is a consumable. This is an ingestible. This is something that parents are going to be even more interested in vetting first because it goes into their child's body, right, and can change presumably the way that they function cognitively or behavior or whatever. So
I agree. It's kind of a shock to see this all of a sudden because nothing has felt like or been like they sell supplements of any type. Now we can dive deeper into sleep here in a little bit, but like and see, okay, do they have these supplements under each category? I'm really kind of changing my tune a little bit. They need some medical people on here, and they need to start having some not just icons like they have on the left there, which look, they're great, but at the same time, I really think you need something from the medical professional community here. As a parent, I'm not ready to give this to my kid by any means. I wouldn't give it to myself based on this lockup right here.
yeah, and an easy way to integrate that or layer that on is in this image. Basically, make the hand the top 2/3 of the image, and have the bottom 1/3 be a testimonial with like a
Mhm.
color. I'm thinking about a blue overlay with the person's image and their name and credentials, and then one or two sentences about why that particular nutritionist or physician or whatever
Mhm.
stands behind your supplements. That's an easy way. You don't have to add anything else in terms of another section to your website. Just modify this image to incorporate some of that social proof, basically. Let's see. So then anytime I see a bestseller section, I immediately think, and maybe it's just the marketer kind of like jaded marketer in me, it's just like, are these really your bestsellers? Or are they the ones that you want me to buy the most because they have the biggest margin or whatever? Like, I don't expect that to be the case with Harkla. They seem like a mission driven organization or the vast majority of businesses, but there are some out there that are specifically chasing scale. So I always wonder if they're actually recommending the best sellers or if they're recommending the ones that they want you to buy the most.
Yeah, I think that is a great point. I normally don't recommend having bestsellers on a page. However, again, if people still aren't convinced up above in going to the category and they end up here, it's good to show them a few of the products, right? And say these are the types of products we sell. And I think they're doing really good job here. Here now, what that young lady was doing up above with the
Yeah.
compression swing, so that gives you a little more context there. What I don't like about this is the call to actions. They're buried in his text. We have not seen a text with that carrot like that at all. And it's not even real text, it's in the image, as you can see when you just highlighted that, right? Or tried to select it. They really need to have the same consistent call to actions throughout the entire site and especially on the same page. So have that call to action button below that says shop now, just like you do for the three up categories above, and take it out of the picture.
Totally agree. Yeah, nothing really to add there except for if you did make these a button down below, or if you modified your theme CSS slightly to kind of have it be actual text overlaid on top of the image, then it'd be a lot easier to change these calls to action or change the formatting of the shop now link versus having to pull the image down or go find that original source file in Photoshop or whatever you use and modify it that way. Then you run the risk of somebody choosing the wrong font or having the wrong size and they don't line up properly. Like it could just be a mess.
Yeah.
So it's probably better to have that as a dedicated button or an overlay.
Mhm.
Okay, so then they've got, it looks like some kind of social mission here where it's 1% of all sales are going back to a research center, it appears like. So love that. I feel like more parents would be invested in that. I don't know if you've seen any best practices around putting it this far down the homepage. We're well beyond the point where somebody would have navigated away to explore another product, probably. So I'm just curious if this is even being seen. And I'd be curious to see if it's on the product detail pages as well, or if it's just kind of getting lost in the shuffle. Because personally, I'd really appreciate seeing this, and it would make me, if I was on the fence of buying, or I was had made the decision to buy, it would make me feel better about my purchase and maybe spending a little bit more to shop with somebody like Harkla as opposed to somebody that's not giving back.
Yeah, I would definitely make sure that this is mentioned in the footer. I wouldn't give it a whole lot of prominence, but I would make sure it's mentioned in the footer so it's on every page. In addition to that, as you say, it's a reassurance tool. So it should be where people are making decisions about buying from you. So on a product detail page, making sure that's mentioned, even near the add to cart button, like you're giving back. And in the cart, again, we see really good when people do like 1% for the planet or things of that sort. We often make sure we test having that messaging in the cart because it goes a long way.
Yeah, I wish I could remember. I just saw one of these a couple of weeks ago when I was doing some last minute Christmas shopping, and they said, "Did you want to round up?" So you basically round up the change of your purchase to get to the nearest dollar amount, and then all of that goes to whatever the cause was. And so that's another cool way to do it too. I'm not saying you have to do the roundup specifically, but in the middle of the checkout, right before I was about to
Mhm.
finish, there was some reinforcement or a reminder there of where the funds were going to, and having somebody be able to maybe even toss a few extra dollars on there could support that cause even more. And I bet some folks would take advantage of that too. And maybe that exists. We're probably not going to get that far into the purchasing process here today, but if it does, then savvy move on Harkless part. So let's see, we're about three-quarters of the way down the page here. Let's see, we got some social proof. Usually you see this right under the hero section, so it's
Yeah.
interesting to see it this far down, but there's really not a whole lot to consume here or take in. It's just kind of like an afterthought.
Yeah, it's quick social proof. I'm not sure what New York Magazine's CNET, what those two publications really have to do with autism or the community they're trying to serve. But if they were featured in, I always am cautious when I see featured in because I think maybe they just ran an ad versus actually being written up in there and having a review, etc. Can you click on those? Is there any interaction with them at all?
No, they're just
Yeah.
individual images kind of arrayed in a row here.
Yeah, I would like to see those clicked into a page on Harkless site that details what the article was, what the award was that they got. People are probably, if we ran a click map on this, they're probably clicking on these. So that's a good
Yeah.
one to think about.
Yep. And we recently did a teardown for Supply, which is at supply.co. So if you haven't seen that, I think they had a fantastic example of a section just like this where you could click on the logos and it swapped out a 1 or 2 sentence snippet from the article. The only other recommendation I think we had for them was to actually link to the source material hosted on your site so somebody can go read the full review or watch the video if they want. So yeah, there's a little bit of room for improvement there in that section. And then it looks like they're going to bring some blog posts around. And this is kind of, I guess, what I was expecting to see from their blog is more educational, more kind of guidance and prescription in terms of how to care for these children and what products make their lives easier. I'm seeing a lot of that in these headlines, and I'm also seeing a lot of credentials in the authors, which is awesome because if you have freelance writer from the Philippines or whatever doing these, that doesn't carry nearly as much weight as having somebody with a bunch of alphabet soup after their name that I don't even know what it stands for, but I'm guessing it's some kind of medical specialty. So the people visiting the site who have children with these issues probably do recognize those acronyms and probably know that they're reputable.
Yeah, yeah, I like this. I think that we're likely getting down to the bottom of the page, and that's a good place to have this information. Again, it's a tool where if people are getting this far down the page, they're just wanting to learn more about the company and how reputable you are, and what do you know what you're talking about, basically, right? And so this is a really good reassurance at this point.
Yeah. I might also, so this, okay, so they've got categories of blog posts. These are the latest ones and these are the most popular ones.
Yeah,
That
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 might be a
might
little much.
Yeah, that might feel like some over. I don't mind having 6 items here, but I don't know if that I would include the categories. I would just say your 6 most popular, or just make a dedicated category and pick 6 that you want to show on your homepage and click through to the rest. The other thing that I was thinking about here is like maybe is this a better place for those ebooks that were in the pop-up to have the kind of call to action here, the last ditch. Hey, you clearly didn't buy from us. You're not really exploring, but would you like to join our email list? Let us share some information like this. Let us send you the 4 ebooks that we have. Let's start building that relationship with value. And
Mhm.
maybe down the road, you'll be in a position to make a purchasing decision and go with us. That might feel like something worth testing here to be a better use of the space, because at least then you capture an email sign up and you start to grow that audience and you start the relationship with like a micro commitment, not necessarily a purchase. But regardless, anytime you have blog posts, I think it's wise to have some kind of a newsletter capture CTA in there, because if they even read one of these, like I'm hoping each one of these posts has an email capture CTA or something inside of it. But yeah, it just feels like you're leaving some opportunity on the table here to not have something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And you could even take one of those blocks and replace it with a email sign up, so the first one, instead of the weighted blanket, just have two of the most popular, and then that first one be a block that's there that just has, you know, to sign up to get them delivered to you once a month or something of that sort.
Right. All right. Let's see what we've got at the end. FAQs. I feel like I've heard your opinion on this before, but I can't remember if it's put it on a dedicated page or you enjoy having it here on the homepage as long as it's useful. So, what's your stance on FAQs?
Neither. FAQs are where good content goes to die. So, what I highly recommend here is if I scroll down this far down the homepage, I'm not concerned about where you're shipping to, what your return policy is. Do you have free shipping? I'm not worried about any of that at this stage. This content needs to go where these questions are actually happening. So, during the conversion flow, people are worried about where you're shipping to, maybe on a product detail page. You already said pretty clearly in the banner up top that you have free shipping. So I think these questions are questions I'm not having yet. And I don't think a consumer who's scrolling this far down your homepage is either. So these got to go. I don't even think you have to test it. I just think this content needs to be dispersed where it makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, especially on a product detail page or something like that.
Mhm.
So, getting down in the footer to wrap things up here, here's the email capture form that we were just talking about. The easy improvement, I think, is to move that up. Also, maybe people are looking for this down here and interested, but I think you could just save that real estate and give more attention and more, space to some of these other links down here. I see a phone number, which I know that you like, and a physical address is even better. There's a support email. So I think that part is great. But then there's this massive section about discounts. And I don't have anything against military discounts or anything like that, or for
Mhm.
schools or whatever. But you know our stance on discounting by this point if you've been watching these teardowns. So case or cause based discounts, I think, are fine because obviously we're in support of our military and our teachers and everybody else. But as a general rule, discounting is not our preferred practice. And to give it a headline down here is just like whoa. But then I don't see any shopping links down here either, and I know we like to see those from time to time.
Yeah, yeah. I think overall, I give this a C, and I'll say why. First thing is the I would take that email sign up as you mentioned out and just move it above as its own section above the footer, but it's still
Mhm.
attached to the footer, so it's on every page, right? But just put it in its own band there. And then I do like the I mentioned this up above that I think this should be in the footer, the 1% of every
Mhm.
sale. I do think that that's a great tool, but I don't like that it's where it's placed in the real estate that it is given. The help section needs to just be contact, and that needs to go all the way in the bottom right hand corner. That's where folks are looking for contact information. And then replace that help column with your main nav. So that should be all the categories under shop. So what is that? Sleep. We talked about sleep, focus, and play.
And
Was it?
play. Yep.
So those three should be under there. And then discounts, I agree with you. I don't have much else to add to that. And then the only other thing I would do is get rid of those payment icons. This is the second plague of e-commerce where it's
Mhm.
built into Shopify themes and it just doesn't get deleted. And I really don't know why people bake this into Shopify themes. If you look at any other e-commerce platform, they don't have this. It's a dead giveaway that it's a Shopify theme if they have all these credit card logos, which in itself isn't a problem. Consumer doesn't care if you're on Shopify or not. What the consumer does care about though is at the time of purchase in checkout, will you take a payment form that I want? They're not worried about it looking at your footer. And secondly, I've never been to a site where they won't take at least one payment form that I have available to me. So it's never been a concern. So really what's happening here is it's just a distraction to have those color logos because people look at your footer and their eye is drawn right down there to those bright colors and varying colors as opposed to the content that you want them to engage with.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing I would add to your comments is this headline, if you're going to keep this, has got to be swapped out. Like nobody's even noticing this 1% of every sale goes to. They're just reading University of Washington Autism Center. And it's like, what does that have to do with me shopping at Harkla, right? This should be 1% of every sale goes to support autism research or whatever.
That's
And then
a
talk
great point.
about what university it's tied to and that kind of thing.
It's a
Um,
great point because when I first saw this, as you scroll down, I was like, oh, this site is actually owned and run by the University of Washington Autism Center. That was my
mhm.
first thought.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so overall, I think they're doing a really solid job. Obviously, we love the product, we love the mission. We talked about some areas of improvement in terms of these blog posts and social proof and all the way up. So I think really you just want to make sure that you've got everything above this. Well, actually, it was not the best sellers. It was even right here. So this section right here, everything above here needs to be rock solid. And that probably involves bringing the supplements a little bit higher. I don't know if that's a new product, but we didn't get to that until well after this. So yeah, there's a bunch of testing ideas I think that we shared today and anything else you want to add, John, before we wrap up? I think overall this was a pretty good review. I think they're doing a lot of things right, but I do think like they're probably in that B category. There's a lot of room to get up into getting that A to A plus grade, and I think we shared a lot of ideas to help them get there today.
Agreed. I think there's some simple changes here that would go a long way, and they should definitely start there and run some testing on those.
For sure. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us today, John. We'll look forward to doing the next one with you and wrapping up this series here and the end of the year and end of 2020 here pretty soon. So all the best to you guys and thanks for joining us.
All right, we'll talk soon.